Hi there, Pursuing Freedom friends and listeners. Thanks as always for tuning in today. We're going to have a great show today, and this is a one of a kind interview. So get ready, buckle up. We've got Chris Prefontaine here from Newport, Rhode Island. He's been in the real estate industry for 28 years. He's the owner of Smart Real Estate Coach, and that's also the podcast that he runs. He's also best-selling author of two books, New Rules of Real Estate and Real Estate on Your Terms. And we're going to dig into the whole story of how did Chris get going in real estate initially, what happened during the 2008-2009 fun times, and how he reinvented with a strategy that I've never even heard of. So we're gonna have a lot of fun and we're gonna learn a lot today, and I'm really grateful you're on the show. Chris, so thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm psyched to talk with you about it, and we'll dive in.
Awesome. Well, as always, we start from the beginning. So give us a little bit about the backstory. Like, you got into real estate, what did your journey look like? And then what kind of happened during that transition in 08 and 09 where you found yourself needing to reinvent, and then what you actually did, because it's fascinating.
Yeah, so we can go back to any part of it, right? So just let me know. But in 91, I started building homes. I knew nothing about building. I just had heard on actually an Earl Nightingale tape. This is dating me too, but he was talking about the Depression where they couldn't sell land. So a guy was going around to homeowners and asking them to put a sign on their lot and like pre-selling it. And so I did that, and I teamed up with a builder, and we had the landowner and all the subcontractors and everyone wait until the home was built, financed, and sold. Then everybody get paid at the end. So it was pretty cool. It was kind of on terms without knowing we were doing terms. In 95, I bought a Realty Executives franchise, and I never was a realtor. So I just got my broker's license after whatever it was, a year, camping out with someone else. Did that with the intent on selling it. Sold it in 2000 to Coldwell Banker. In 2000, running up to the debacle of 08, we were doing our own properties. We were coaching people throughout US and Canada. And when I say our own properties, Erin, I'm talking like condominium conversions, some new construction, some rehab, a teeny bit of commercial, just our own investments. And then that led to the entire crash. And it was like a light switch went off in February of 08. And because we signed personally on loans, which we don't do anymore, and because we used cash and investors' cash, it was just a mess. And literally for 4 years, like February of 8 to February of 12, cleanup time, like part-time, if not full-time job. And then in 13 officially, but it started right after like mid-12, we started re-engineering everything and only buying on lease purchase or owner financing. And that means never taking on a loan, never signing personally again, because it took me 4 years to unwind that garbage. I didn't want to go back there. And so that parlayed into my son and son-in-law joining me, my daughter back then. And now we control at any one time, because we buy and sell, we control around 50 or 60 properties. None of those were on loans. So they're all controlled or owned. And we exit all of those deals with what's called the rent to own. It's just buyers that need more time. They're not renters that may have an option to buy. These are buyers that are serious, that put money down. They just need more time. So that's the 10,000 foot view journey of the 28 years.
Nice. Well, I appreciate it. It's so fun talking to another East Coaster because we talk so fast. It's like, we're going to cram a lot into this.
That's why I said you can go back if you want.
Yeah. So, all right. So back up a little bit, because this is really new to me. When you say buy on terms, what exactly do you mean by that?
Okay, so I'll do two just to keep it simple. One is lease purchase, and then within each one of these is subcategories. But I'll just give you an example. So let's say you're a homeowner and it's worth $300,000 and you owe $250,000. For whatever reason, you either can't sell it on the open market, or you don't want to pay a realtor, or whatever the reason is. You want to get as much as you can out of that deal, and it's not selling on the open market. We go in hypothetically using the $300,000 value and the $250,000 mortgage, and we say, okay, listen. We're going to put one of our buyers in there. We need a little time to find that buyer that needs time. We call them tenant buyers. Okay. And we're going to guarantee you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, $50,000 on or before the end of the term. Let's use 36 months. Very typical. So we're going to give you that whole $50,000. You wouldn't have got it before. You would have paid a realtor and done all these other things. And then we're going to pay off your mortgage. Today it's $250,000, but in 3 years it's going to be less, right? So we benefit from that. So at the very beginning, we lock in that equity and say, you get the payoff of your loan plus $50,000 at the end. Okay. Now we go out, we find that buyer, the tenant buyer that needs time, maybe credit enhancement, maybe time to save. We put them in the home, and the monthly lease payment to us is going to be higher than the mortgage payment that we're paying on the seller's underlying loan. So let's say it's a $1,500 loan. We put someone in there for $1,800. Okay. So we create a spread there. Now there's 3 paydays on this deal that I just described. To put the buyer in the home, they got to qualify, right? They got to pass the criminal and all that good stuff. But once they go in the home, they're putting a down payment down that's non-refundable. So you're getting serious buyers, not renters that may like it and may buy. So they might put down, we average 7, but we like to get up to 10%. So 7% on 300, they're going to put 21 grand down, non-refundable. That's your payday 1. That goes in your pocket. Payday 2 is that $300 that I said between the 1,800 and the 15.
Right.
And that's over 3 years. So whatever that is, there is a little over 10 or 11 grand. And then on the back end, what do you pick up? You pick up the fact you mark that 300 grand price up, probably to 319, just depends. I'm being general. And then remember that 250 mortgage is not 250 anymore. It's lower. So that payday 3 averages for us around 30 something grand. So our 3 paydays now runs around 75 grand for us. And we're in the New England area, as you said, but we've got students that range as low as 45, still good deal, all the way up to about 125. We've seen higher, but those are the averages per deal. So, you know, realtor or investor doesn't matter. You put together a few of those a year. It's pretty cool. So that's the lease purchase side. You want me to hit the owner financing and come back? Or
yeah,
okay.
Totally.
So the owner financing, that means a lot of different things too, right? As you know, in real estate. However, for us, it means that we're seeking, Erin, debt-free properties, free and clear. I used to say a third in the U.S. are debt-free. And I was talking to a woman in Naples the other day. She owned a mortgage company. She's a realtor and investor and is looking at what we do to come on board. And she said 53% of the homes there are free and clear.
Holy.
That's yeah. So why is that cool? Because we go talk to them. We give them top dollar as long as they'll give us their term. And usually that's at least 4 years. We try to get more. And we pay principal only payments. That's why the price doesn't matter. So your same home that's worth 300, I say to you, I'll give you whatever it is, 1,000 a month. It's principal payments. So not only is my tenant buyer paying me more than that, but every month I pay that, thanks to my tenant buyer paying me, it's $1,000 a month in principal payment. It just hammers that loan down. And so 4-year term is 48 grand without you marking the house up. You just picked up $48,000 in principal pay down. That's why we go after free and clear, because owner financing can mean all kinds of weird concoctions. We specifically target that one.
But when you say free and clear, what loan are you paying down?
Say you're the seller, you say, yep, I want all the money for this home. I want the whole 300. The market's not giving it to me. Will you give it to me? Yeah. If you'll go my term, you're the bank. You own the first mortgage.
Oh, I see.
You sold me your home. You took back paper for 300.
Got it. Okay.
But no interest. So
in both situations, you're basically doing rent to own. You're placing a tenant. The tenant is going to pay you a profit margin, essentially the total. You get a profit margin on that. And then you create the terms of how to make sure that the owner, who's basically previous owner or seller carrier, whatever it is, that they're also winning.
Correct.
And so how did you discover this strategy?
Okay, so everyone says that it's not like this stuff. I was reading a book up in Vermont on last vacation, whatever, 6 months ago, and I forget the name of it, but it was like Carnegie and all of these wealthy, but they were doing lease purchase, and it was late 1800s. I was like excited to see that. Like, this is not new stuff, but the difference is we took it, built a system around it, automated it, scaled it, and now can teach it, right? That's all. But it's been around. Nothing we invented, you know? What we've done, Erin, is throughout the process, you learn by mistakes. And I wrote it in the book. I want people to know the good, the bad, you know, how do you navigate? You learn the little nuances, like those 3 paydays back in 14 were like averaging us 10,000 on the first one and maybe 20 in the back end. Now it's 28,000 and 35,000. You just get better at constructing the deals, but it's been around. So long time. And
then, so when you started around that 2013 timeframe, did you kind of jump right in on your own, or were you already, I mean, did you come out of the recession and whatever you want to call it with a team of folks that you were responsible for, and as a team you guys all pivoted?
No, I wish I did. I had no money, no credit, no nothing. I had to move into an apartment. Yeah, I went from what was a $2.something million home overlooking the harbor to a 1-bedroom apartment.
Man.
So no, I wish I could afford a team. No, it was me. It was me making calls, you know, starting to call for sale by owners, you know, just basics. And then that was in like summer of 13, did about 13 deals my first 6 months. And then my son, Nick, joined me in 14 because I couldn't get them sold fast enough. And he knew how to go online and help me with that. So I'd say a little bit more than a year, he came on board. And then 2 years later, my daughter and son-in-law came on board. And now we've got a great team that surrounds us.
So, and then that's a question I have for you is how are you finding these folks that partner with you essentially as the homeowner / seller?
Yeah. So depends on the market. Like say the market's screaming hot, like one of our students in DC. Well, FSBOs is not a great one, right? Because they're selling. Yeah. But so I have him go towards more expireds. I don't care what market you're in, you know, there's expired listings.
Yep.
So that's a great target. For rent by owners, always a good one, no matter what the market is, for a myriad of reasons, because they think they have to rent it, maybe to Band-Aid it, but they don't know there's another option, or they're a burnt out landlord. So that's a great one. Or target the free and clear. Out-of-state owners, free and clear. This targeted list that we teach them how to do and go after.
Awesome. So talk to me a little bit about the teaching that you're talking about and your students. So 13, 14, you found some success, you fine-tuned your processes. When did you start the coaching program?
Yeah, it's funny. I had a call. There's a war college here in Newport. So Navy people come in, and I had a call from a gentleman that just knew me from being local and said, listen, I'm getting out of military life. Had enough. I'm going back to civilian. I'm moving back to Ohio, I think it was. I want to do real estate. Can you teach me? And he was literally the first person that wrote me a check since, back in the early 2000s that said, in the terms business, that said, I want you to teach me how to do that. So he literally come in my office and we do calls, and I just taught him what I do. No systems. And then that led just referrals, and that led people saying, well, why don't you do an ebook? And so we did an ebook, and then people opted into that. And then it started taking hold. Our first ebook was called Eat That Sandwich, for the sandwich lease.
Okay.
Between the buyer and the seller, it's really all it is. And then, I don't want to say the rest is history, but from 14 on, we grew it from, nothing to a few $1 million in revenue by helping people get deals done. I just think you probably agree with this, there's this enormous gap. I call it a gap between, okay, I took a course or I went to a seminar and now I want to do a deal. Some people never even get there. It's ridiculous. They'll call us and say, I spent 10,000, I spent 20. I had 2 people say I spent 6 figures in education, never did a deal. Like that doesn't even make sense to me. 2 of our top people right now, actually. So we're closing that, if not bridging that gap, by saying, hey, we'll lock arms with you. Like, we want to do this with you. We're not just selling stuff. I could sell stuff. I could probably sell it for a lot more, but I just want to get the base foundation course out there and a lot of free stuff, and then have people come in, lock arms with us and do deals. Big difference. Not many people are doing it because it's pretty labor intensive.
Now, you mentioned that a lot of the early clients came to you by referral. Now, since then, have you developed a strategy with YouTube marketing, online social media presence to build that brand and have more visibility?
Yeah, we started just by doing that simple ebook to people's list that like a VA service company that services investors said, yeah, I'll send you a free ebook out, and they'll opt into that. And then they start communicating with us. So it's mostly swaps like that with what I call JV partners. Like if you and I were to do it with each other's lists, it's YouTube now. Yeah, but that's only since like 16. Some Facebook stuff. I really love that end of it, but we dabble. And then a lot of these shows work because it gets the word out, right?
Yeah.
It's free. They come to a great show like yours. They listen for free. And they go, oh, I like that person. I like that one. And that's how the word gets out.
It's awesome.
The books don't hurt, obviously,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating because number one, I'm impressed by how you reinvented yourself and in a totally different way than what you've been doing before. And you've found massive success. And this is actually something I talk about a lot with agents, lenders, anyone who, we go through these ups and downs. This journey it's not like we're given some fixed income salary and then that's it. Right. So whenever folks are going through a tough time, I always remind them that if you've ever experienced any level of success in this business, if you have one good month, right, then you have a skill set that makes you capable of achieving a certain level of success. So all you have to do is just find a way to recreate that and do it in a way that is scalable, systematic, and organized. I mean, essentially, you're not going to lose your skill set for reinvention and innovation and creativity and all that kind of stuff, and drive and perseverance and everything else it takes to survive.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you should almost, I'm trying to think of the book, Ray Dalio's book, Principles. I don't know if you've read that, but he's one of many that talk about when the curveballs come, like you said, like you have a good month and then you're going to have a challenging, like almost welcome it. Like, okay, what can I learn from that? And then now let's have a spree of 2 or 3 months. And then, so welcome that as a lesson, as a learning curve, not as, oh, holy Moses, what just happened to me? Just welcome and embrace it. Yeah.
I read something very similar to that this morning that was talking about, I'm reading this book. It's, excuse my French if anybody's sensitive. It's called Unfuck Yourself.
I read it. I had the audio.
It's really good. And he was talking about how if you look at a train track and you think that looking back one direction is your life and looking ahead is your future. And if you look back, there's going to be all the happy memories and there's all the hard times. And you've already overcome so much. So if you're stuck in anything in life, whether it be, health, financial, relationship, whatever, you're already capable of overcoming. So you just have to know that you're like mooring a ship and you're in a storm, and
Yeah.
you don't just let go of the wheel and let it all fall apart. You just,
Right. No, I love it. And if you're going to go through that book, the audio was fun just because of the accent. Like I
yeah. Oh,
had.
where's he from?
I think it was heavy, either Irish or somewhere in Europe. It
Oh,
was
no
heavy.
way. I didn't even realize that.
Just do it to listen to it.
Yeah. It's an awesome book. I've been like devouring it the last
Yeah.
few days. So, awesome. So tell me a little bit about, so real estate on your terms, I suspect is like diving deep into these strategies that you're using and teaching, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's because that was the first book. So it really starts by the debacle, what happened, a little bit about my journey with that and my son's journey. And then just A through Z, like, what are we doing here? And there's testimonials and people that did deals. And so it's just, yeah, it's what we do now every day.
And what does it look like to partner with you guys? Is it indefinite for as long as folks feel they need your support, or is there a time frame where there's a certain duration of a program?
They actually, good question. They actually, what I call cap out, because you don't need us in your life forever. Like after 3 deals, you start getting very comfortable and very confident. And after 7 or 10, you really don't need us. Now, what we're finding, pretty cool thing with our community, we call it the Wicked Smart community, by the way. What's cool is in our community, they don't want to leave. Like some of our associates have been around for a while. Some have been to like the 4th or 5th or 6th event, and we only do 1 or 2 a year. They just want to be around. It's like family. So it's a super, super glue, but they're not obligated to bring us deals at that point at all. After they cap out, we call it. And there's different levels of cap out.
Okay. And so tell me more about the events. What do those look like? How many days and where and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So we do them both here in Newport, Rhode Island. There's one every fall, and it's called QLS Live Event. So QLS stands for Quantum Leap Systems. That's also our basic foundational course. So it's neat because everybody in that room went through the course. Everyone. So it's not that they're all experienced, but they went through the course and they're all speaking the same language. And so that's a 2-day with 1 extra day for the associates only. We call it Associate Development Day. Really cool. And then every April we do a business scaling secrets, which is a little more micro about starting, scaling systems and skill development and things like that. So like last year we had Dr. Joe Vitale as a keynote. This year we have, I'm sure you saw the movie Rudy Rudiger. Mm-hmm. We have the real Rudy. He's the keynote speaker. So it's a good event all around because I don't think it's just mindset. We can teach till we're blue in the face. It's getting through, like you said, those struggles, and that's right here. So we mix that into the event, like I did in that other book you mentioned before we came on.
Yeah, awesome. And then one other question I had for you is in regards to those events and then scaling the business and everything else. So how big is your team now? Like, what does it look like for you today?
We have in this building, now this is not just property, this is property and coaching, right? So, because property is only my son-in-law and my son with a part-time assistant, because you don't need a ton of people for just properties. If you're an investor thinking, can I do this part-time? Yes. The whole entire team is my son-in-law, my son, myself, Lauren in support for the coaching, full-time bookkeeper, their assistant for the properties. And then we have virtual assistants. We have 3.
Okay. How do you find your virtual assistants? Just curious. I know that's a big question and a kind of a insecurity in our industry is like,
we have, okay. So there's a few levels. We have one that's worked with me since 13. And then, he's great. He's done tens of thousands of calls. So then he works with some of our associates and is a waiting list. So if you're in our program, you get access to him eventually. And then there's an assistant we have who was with a company in the Philippines. It was an admin assistant. That company went out of business. We loved her, so we hired her. Now we treat her as part of our team, our culture, everything. She's actually flying here to our event to meet us all for the first time.
Oh, cool.
There's different levels. But if you're an investor, Elsa's VA service, which is on our website, is really a good one for investors because they're trained. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That's awesome.
And then if you want an executive assistant, we have, if you want me to give you a link for that?
Yeah, sure.
You go to smartrealestatecoach.com/great assistant. It's different though. It's like executive assistant. They find them, vet them, train them for what you're looking for, and then I don't want to say turn them over, but essentially assign them to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're speaking at our event too. So it's just things like that. Like we don't bring people in, Erin, just to say, oh, we're going to bring someone in and they're going to sell stuff. Every year we look, where's kind of the community in general? And, it'd be cool to have this guy come in because he has a great assistant program and our community needs that or whatever is appropriate.
Awesome. And you kind of mentioned something that I wanted to ask you about as well, which is the part-time versus full-time. I mean, what percentage of your students do you see that this allows them to create an exit strategy for themselves and go full-time into this? And what percentage would you say, mostly part-time?
Okay, so there's only out of that batch of people I told you, is probably a handful, maybe 4 or 5 that are full. One pointedly went recently after 2 years of a plan. The other ones were already quasi full-time or had the option to do that because they're either semi-retired or doing something else. The rest are part-time, so it's mostly part-time. But some are quite content to do that because of our average, income per deal is pretty high. And some are very pointedly, like Mike in California, making a plan to come full-time. He had a 2-year plan when he started in February of 17. And in March or April of 19, he made his move. So it worked, So it's just a matter of who they are and how aggressive they want to do that.
And then do they become enveloped into your team, or are they building their own empire on their own?
Yeah, good question. It's all their own team, all their own company, rather. The properties go in their name. We're just really a consultant. When I say we profit split and do deals with them, we're really a consultant. So they're cutting us a consultant fee based on the contract they have with us.
Awesome. And then talk to me a little bit about the new rules of real estate and how that's different from your first book.
Yeah, totally different. So we took 24, but that counts us. So let's just say there's like 23 different niches in there, like tax liens, apartments, wholesaling, rehabbing, all the different niches, plus a few chapters of ours. So they can really go through this and get a sense for the different niches if they either A, want to pick one, right? Or B, they're in a business now, they've got it running, and they want to add something. They want to add a profit center. And so there's a lot of wholesales, for example, and flippers. The market's really tight for that now. Everybody's trying to do it. A lot of them are gravitating towards terms. So they may pick up the book as an experienced investor, not just brand new, and say, okay, I like that for this reason. And they'll find something they can add. There's mindset in this book. Dr. Joe Vitale's in it. A couple of neat mentors I've had over the years. And then Nick and I and Zach all have a chapter or two, and we comment on each one of those chapters. So it's pretty conversational in a sense and pretty loose. Real easy read, super easy read.
Cool. What is your podcast all about? And you mentioned it's called Smart Real Estate Coach, correct?
Yeah, smartrealestatecoachpodcast.com. Similar to the book, I actually pulled people from that for the book. So it's a hodgepodge of different niches and mindset mixed in. And, so I try to do it so they're not bored, even if they didn't like such and such niche, that they'd enjoy listening to the podcast.
Awesome. And are you still dabbling in other kinds of investing, or is this your primary thing? Because I shouldn't say this. You're doing a lot. You've got a lot of balls in the air right now. So what I mean by that is the buying on terms, is that your primary,
that's our primary focus. We're adding buying and selling notes soon, because that's that's how to do more on terms by creating paper. Whole other conversation. But but we don't, I call it the shiny object syndrome. We could go out there and try to do all these different things, but you get distracted real quick. I mean, to be good at one of these niches, you got to stay at that for several years, and you can clean house if you do it right,
Yeah. Well, no, I love that. I mean, I've had, like I mentioned to you before we were recording, is that I've had a number of folks on the show that aren't necessarily buying and selling residential real estate, which is kind of how the show started. And the idea there is that, someone could listen to this strategy and be totally intrigued, and then create a part of their freedom plan, really. Because the tricky part I feel about real estate and lending is that, in order to make more, you've got to do more. Like you don't get a pay raise as a realtor, it's just you just have to close more transactions. So that means that eventually you're either going to run out of hours in the day, or figure out how to scale that particular business, or figure out how to take that amazing income that you have the opportunity to generate and reinvest it in a way that's going to create part of your freedom plan and have some passive income in some way, shape, or form. I mean, this isn't totally passive, but it is once you've put a tenant in there, you're creating an income.
Yeah, you said this is huge what you said, because it somehow didn't come up before. And that was when I was a realtor, we hit 100 homes a year for the last 3 years. But every January I'd be going, oh, I got to do it again. Like, you got to recreate it, even though we had a cool little team. This, you do 12. I'll use 12. You do 12 of these. Now, thick picture. You had all those payday ones. You have created with 12 deals at least $3,000 to $4,000 net cash flow a month, and then you have staggered where you can chart it, you can spreadsheet it. 1 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. These big paydays coming. So you could take a few months off and go, okay, I got that, and then start again. But most of the students go at it pretty hard. But you can pull back if you want at any time, because of the nature of it. That's key. What you said, yeah.
Yeah, and I also think that it's not just about what we can learn and what we can implement for our own lives. It's about what we can learn and then be able to share with others as a way of presenting ourselves in the marketplace as an expert and a wealth of knowledge in the whole world of real estate. Because we're all in this because we believe in real estate, right? We believe in the power of building wealth through real estate. And if we can be talking to a client and say, hey, yeah, I heard this podcast with this guy and he does this amazing thing, or I learned this strategy from this gal and whatever, then all you're doing is adding more value. And that's what it's all about, is being a person of value, not just looking to close a deal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. A lot of our associates, it's funny, we're doing some authority training, like how to be the authority in the marketplace and, be the person in your market, guy or gal. And when we're doing the avatar, we're doing the kind of their whys, it's all coming back that they just love helping people. Yeah. And we didn't know that, like, just happened, and our niche kind of supports that. So it's kind of cool.
I think that's one of the biggest bottlenecks in the real estate industry, is that there are so many people out there that absolutely, genuinely, sincerely love to help others. And they're stuck because there's this component of it that's sales, and it is sales. We all have to be doing something to make sure we get found if we want to do a good job.
Yeah, I can't agree more.
And it's like that fear of sales and of being self-serving instead of serving others. And at the end of the day, any way that folks can bridge that gap between their genuine desire to serve and then getting found is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so if you look at when my son made the bridge from, and I remember doing this myself, but when he made the bridge from realtor, because he was too, to full-time with this, he said, just healthier. Like, the buyer's happy, the seller's happy. It's a three-way win-win, because you're helping so many different avenues, not where everybody's bickering. And I'm not saying everybody does in a conventional transaction, but it's just a healthy mode to be in.
So that was another question I have for you, is where do you market? So you find the homeowner, you present them with this opportunity, which I imagine you teach through your courses and all that. And then where do you market to find the rent to own folks? Because that's a unique niche in and of itself, because these are serious buyers that are not actually going to close for 3 years.
Yeah. So that's actually the easy part, believe it or not, because a lot of the other niches like rehab and wholesale, they teach build a buyer's list first. So when you get a property, you have it. Complete opposite. You get the property, you're flooded with buyers because there's not a lot of homes out there on terms. Okay. So a lot of them, they'll be in tears thinking, I gave up hope. I'll give you a quick story. One couple, they just cashed out their house. They just finished the end of it. So it's a good story. She had a home in Boston and she wanted a home in Northborough, Massachusetts that I had, rent to own. And great business, salon, great cash flow. Problem was they had to file bankruptcy after going through a year of in vitro and just driving bills up to like over $100,000. So the cash flow was there. The credit and the bankruptcy hurt them for 2 years. So that's all they needed is time. Mm-hmm. Well, so I sold their home on a rent to own in Boston. They bought a rent to own in Northborough. Both of those have since cashed out. And she literally said, and she's now a student coincidentally, but she's literally said, I gave up. I thought I was done. I had to rent for 2 or 3 years. So that's pretty cool. And then that's unique, but then she ended up coming to our events and taking the course, and now she's doing her own deals.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a weird question, but I am like one of the most fly by the seat of my pants kind of people. And my husband and I would live in a house for 1.5 years and then buy another one. His mother-in-law, my mother-in-law told me that, like, I'd go to the grocery store and come home with a house,
That's the same with us.
Yeah. So do you ever run into folks like me that are on this rent to own for 3 years? A lot can happen in 3 years. So what does happen if someone's job changes or an unexpected baby comes along or whatever, and they can't, that house isn't the right fit anymore?
Yeah. I call it a life event, because usually it's not a good doesn't fit. It's usually a bad doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Death, divorce, job reload. They've all happened to us. And they happen probably, maybe if we do 24 homes, it might be 2 to 3 or 4, it's going to happen 5% of the time, probably 10%. So what do? You pivot. You either, if you have time left in your term, you put on the market with a realtor right away, or you do a FSBO, for sale by owner, right away. If you have a lot of time left, you put another tenant buyer in it. If neither of those look good, you call the seller and say, look, had a headache. I know I said this term, but can you give me an extension? We've done a lot of that. They gladly give it. They don't want it back. They give you an extension. So there's all kinds of ways to pivot. Always, always, always. We do, Erin, some deal structure videos where we show deal after deal after deal. We do one a week on Sundays.
Oh, cool.
And it's cool because there's no one deal the same. Even though the protocol, the math might look the same, every deal is a little different. Where it came from, the nuances, this question. And so we try to expose all that. So it's just not all fluff. It's here's how we work through this challenge. Here's how we work through this deal.
So by the way, I think that's genius. And I just had a conversation with someone today about this idea of, what you're doing there is you're giving free value content on a weekly show, a weekly video. And whether this is like a 2-minute snippet or a 10-minute, like, thorough explanation of a overview of a whole process and a whole transaction, that is enough for folks that are trying to figure out how to do marketing. If you can just share stories. You know, hey, I was working with a buyer today and he had this question and I hear it all the time. So I'm just going to explain this one thing that I know is confusing for a lot of people. That's it. It's educational, informational. It's not spammy. And what happens is, like you said before, what did you say, that you're presenting yourself as an expert? You were talking about
we train them to how to be the kind of what we call the authority, but yeah, it's the expert in that marketplace, because I don't care if you're a realtor, investor like us, there are people that are going to be competition with you, whether there are now or not. And there are big national companies getting in our space. And so when you're the authority, because you have that video or that book or whatever, I don't want people to be overwhelmed by it, but it's not difficult to get started. You're a good person they're going to call. You're the expert. You've established that. And you're right. Yeah. If you just we started with little snippets. I look back at some of the old videos we did and I was horrified, but it got us going, you know, so now we got a rhythm going.
Totally. No, I started doing this Tuesday tidbit thing and it fell off because we got really busy and I need to get back to it. But every day we have conversations where we don't even realize we're scripted to a degree because we've been saying the same thing for many years. And every conversation I have, there's an opportunity for 5 videos in that one conversation where I could be like, oh yeah, here's another thing that I say a million times. We're going to explain this to the masses and put it out there so they can. So I love that. So what's next for you? What's coming down the pike?
We've got pretty cool as a company mission, purpose, values that all tie together. And so we're on a mission through 2022 now to do 1,500 transactions cumulative with our associates around the country. So we've got a ways to go, probably about halfway there as far as how many people we need to accomplish that. And so we're going around the country pretty quickly and adding new people. So we do like a big event coming up. We started our events, Erin, in the basement in 2016, 16 or 18 people on a rainy damp day in a Chamber of Commerce basement. That's where we started. Okay. Next year, it went to like, I want to say 40 and 17, 18 was about 80. And this year will be up to about 125, 150, maybe higher. So it's changed and the momentum's changed and our us being known has changed. So these areas are literally, people want to get in and get this terms thing going with us because it's really scaling nicely. And you were in the mortgage business. If you look at some old stats, and I forget where I read it, but it was recently I read it and it said in the early 90s, like 2% of the transactions were done. I might be a teeny bit off on terms like lease purchase owner financing. And that'll be as high as the teens, if not into the 20 percentile in the ensuing years here, just because banks are tougher now, et cetera, et cetera. So it's growing fast and you might as well get a piece of it, you know? Yeah,
it's awesome. Well, how should folks find you if they want to either hire you as a coach, pick your brain, whatever?
I appreciate that. So they can go to smartrealestatecoach.com because there's a free webinar there. If they can deal with my accent for another 55 minutes, they can watch. It's free. They can get more content. The book itself, I mean, I can give one of the books away and that includes shipping. They won't put a credit card in. You'll know better than me what one your audience might like that we mentioned, and I can give you a free link.
Well, I mean, I think if you're listening and you want a copy of Real Estate on Your Terms or the new rules of real estate, maybe they could just maybe reach out to you through your website.
Well, what I'll do is let's do this. I'll give you the link for the free, for the Real Estate on Your Terms. And when they put it in, just make sure they put your show. And if there's any notes that they say, well, I'd like to see what the other one's like, because they're both on Amazon, just go to free, SREC. So it's S for Smart Real Estate Coach, free SREC book.com. And again, they won't put a credit card in. Just tell us you're on your show and your address to ship it, and we'll pay for it.
You said free SREC book.
Yeah, for Smart Real Estate Coach, book.com.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks for offering that. Yeah, guys, go and get a copy of this book if you're curious. And I know I'm intrigued and interested. I love finding out about all these cool strategies. So really appreciate you taking the time today, Chris. Thanks for being on the show.
That was great chatting with you. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, thanks as always, guys, for tuning in today. And, you know, I'm always going to beg you at the end to subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, whatever format you like the best, because the more subscribers we have, the more awesome guests we find and help other folks get this great content. So have an awesome day. I love and appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.